fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my God! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Welcome to Simspeed TV. It's the middle race, the middle round of this quick fire end of year Ozicar F3 Series. 3 rounds last week had us at Red Bull Ring, Austria. Now we bring it home with an Australian home leg here at Phillip Island in the wonderful F3 cars. They slipstream each other pretty closely, but they go quickly through the corners, and that'll make them an exciting sight here at Phillip Island. I'm David Haynes, joined by Jason Fewens. Jason, good racing last week. Cam Dance, almost unstoppable. Who's going to bring the challenge to him this week?
Tonight, I've got my money on Braden Martin, the Aussie car sweetheart that he is. Missed out last week, but has qualified quite well this week. As we can see on the grid right now, he's up in 6th there off the 3rd row. So here's my little surprise, one to watch out for.
Well, it's Cam Dance on pole, but again, less than a 10th from Alex John, then Sebastian Vandal, Alex McKellar, David Baz, and Braden Martin, our top 6. Across the page, we've got Sean Doyle, and hello to Donna tuning in, I'm sure, Nathan Verney, James Chastano, Braden Sagasar, Liam Banks, and Kirk Broadhurst. That's our top 12.
Off row number 7 tonight, got Matt Marsh and Scott Harvey side by side with Jeremy Bush and Tom Hunt, newcomer into the series, off row number 8. Sheldon Hart and Ira Feldberg off row number 9 tonight. As we look towards the back of the grid, Adam Marsh and Sean McKenzie there off row number 10. And Darren Lassou, very uncharacteristic, actually put in a qualifying time tonight. But he is off the back row, so he still has a long way to make his way to the front. But we'll see what he can do. And John Snell's by his side.
No one is safe from Jason Fewens' sass tonight. And cold tyres, they launch down towards a very quick turn 1. A very quick southern loop. All of our F3 cars roaring into life. Cam Dance from the pole position there, getting a decent start, but already they close in on him by turn 1, and he has a lot to think about in his mirrors. 2 wide, 3 wide, already a little bit of a problem. 360 spin and continue, but then it's off the track for James Chastano as he got collected from behind. Driver just didn't know quite where to pick him, and also in the gravel outside of the southern loop there, Liam Banks. Looks like almost everyone's going to continue, hopefully, though. And we keep on racing down towards the hairpin for the first time. Still Dance leading.
Yeah, elbows out into the braking zone, a Honda hairpin there, but looks like everybody's made it through relatively unscathed as we're down on the far end of the track in Siberia at the moment. We'll look at the backs of Alex John, who's currently sitting up towards the front of the field at the moment, getting a good run out of Siberia down through the hay shed now with that scenic Atlantic Ocean in the background. Making their way up through the Lukey Heights for the first time on this first of the 2 sprint races here tonight.
You'd get very lost as a penguin. That's the Southern Ocean. But anyway, good racing still as they then come down across the hill from Lukey Heights and into the MG hairpin. Now the fastest section of the track, and the cold tyres have caught out Matt Marsh. You saw it from on board, Scott Harvey. Just too much traction, tyres too cold. And off and around he went. That's what everyone is managing in these opening couple of laps with the cold, slick tyres. And Cameron Dance is managing how strong that slipstream is. Look at the battle behind for 4th and 5th. And off the track, off wide, through turn 1 goes Cam Dance. He's going to have to be so careful of the rejoin. It gets in the way a little bit of Alex John, but Alex McKellar is through into the lead of this one. And Dance obviously struggling.
Yeah, those cold tyres catching quite a few out, but we're halfway through around on the 2nd lap now, so they should be really coming up to operating temperature. And this is where we'll really see things get tested here as the heavy braking zone into Honda hairpin. Very lucky we haven't seen any front to rear contact here so far in the race tonight, because it is a very vulnerable spot of the track where a lot of drivers tend to get caught out. There's one there in the background, right on cue. Looks like Sheldon Hart in the Castrol car, getting a little bit out of control, but making his way back onto the circuit, so living to fight another day.
Exactly. Race 1 of 2, and remember, we get that top 10 invert from the finishing order here into that longer race number 2. Almost a bit of contact there. I think David Baz just loosened up Cam Dance a tiny bit in the battle for third as they came off of MG. Baz has been one of the movers, I think, so far through this race. Definitely picked off Sean Doyle not long ago, but he's still got to be careful about who's slipstreaming off him so fast through that final corner, so fast down this pit straight, but as Dance has shown, not exactly flat out too wide through turn 1. They've got to give just a little bit. They're all oh so close. There's Baz not waiting for the move, trying to get clear through turn 1 so he can take the racing line through Southern Loop. And it's Sagasar who now emulates Cam Dance, running a little wide off turn 1. A little tidier on the rejoin, but those tyres are going to be filthy for the next lap.
Yeah, got to do a little bit of work to get them cleaned up again, but as we watch now, a little three-way battle here going into the heavy braking zone at Honda Hairpin yet again. It's a case of the late breakers side by side as they make their way through, giving each other plenty of room, which is good to see, and an awesome trait that we often see here in Ozicar, the series that it is. And being a short series, it is very critical that a lot of these drivers pick their battles, because you have one bad race tonight and that could potentially be you put yourself behind the 8 ball for the rest of the series.
Yeah, 6 races in 3 weeks. No drop rounds, anything like that. Every race going to count massively, and I'm sure that factors in here for Cam Dance, who's just thinking, it's got to keep finishing inside the top 10 here. Maybe if I'm off from the lead, then that top 10 invert will benefit me for the longer race number 2, and he can still hold on to that championship lead. Up front, Alex McKellar and Alex John, and David Baz in third. Dance behind him in fourth. So a good little gap there that McKellar has got, and it's his teammate that he's got behind him, which I'm sure will be very reassuring. Here's Dance looking down the inside of Baz for third place. Both of them have got to be so careful going through there so quick, side by side. But just think you want to hold the inside through Southern Loop here. It just keeps going, and you'll run out of space on the outside, and the two of them touch. Dance still in the grass, refuses to lift. That was a really close, touchy moment.
Yeah, Doyle just succumbing to the position there, but definitely everyone out there at the moment on track driving with their elbows out, because they know how critical good points leading into race number 2 will be tonight. We have lost a couple of cars. I saw Liam Banks early on pull the pin after a little bit of rear contact in Siberia. We jump on board with the VRS replay right now and see what we can capture here in the background. It's a replay of the Cameron Dance and Sean Doyle incident coming out of Southern Loop.
David Baz. And so Dance gets a little bit of the grass. That gets him a little sideways. He makes contact there with David Baz and then rejoins. So not too much in that, but gosh, you're lucky to get away with contact like that at speed like this. These open wheelers, pretty fragile. That can happen. I think we're going to get the replay of Sean McKenzie and co now. Nope. That's Sagasar in front of Baz. And this is how Baz gets back through. I think just a bit too hot there for Sagasar, was it? He's had to stand on the brakes to not lose the rear end of the car.
Of course, Sagasar, one of our podium place getters last week. We spoke to him in the commentary box, so he newcomer to the Aussie car scene and jumped in that last week with the dominant force and finding himself on the third step of the podium. So he's back again this week to show everybody what he can do.
Jason, who's the reigning Formula 2 champion?
Currently?
Yes. Oh, never mind. A little bit of contact there. David Baz losing the rear. I think they're really wearing out the rear tyres at these high speeds and long corners. And they're in the hairpin. It just gave up a little bit. And who's behind him there for Baz? Chastanoff, I think, that he got into. And Jeremy Bush there. So double locked on action here. Chasty doesn't want to hang behind. He had a rough start to the race. And the two of them are going to go side by side over Lukey Heights in F3 cars. Can you make this work? Can Chasty hang around the outside? No, he's going to get run out of space and he's not going to get to the inside for the hairpin. But the two of them make contact again as Baz loses the rear. Chastanoff, 1, 2, 3 pieces of contact. Baz has got to flick spin it around, and these cars proving very difficult. The track temperature only 25 degrees Celsius, so I would have thought there was some decent grip out there at this middle portion of the race. But our drivers finding these cars difficult to drive at the limit.
Yeah, of course, they're a lot bigger than what a lot of these drivers are used to with their Skip Barber series, but just as vulnerable with a lot of these wings So a little bit of a sense of depth perception there with a couple of these drivers, maybe.
Got a really high nose on these cars. Oh, this was, yeah, here we go. Mackenzie, and that was Vandal, wasn't it? Coming together. The Southern Loop. Oh, no, and then it kept going. That's a real shame. We have had quite a few casualties here. The top 14 doing okay, but Chastanoff in 15th on back are all drivers who've been through the pit lane. So Baz and Mackenzie and Lesieux and Vandal and Kirk Broadhurst and Liam Banks, pretty bruising opening race, and that's tough for those drivers because they're going to be on the back foot again for race number 2 in not too long. Again, that top 10 invert means you can think of 10th place as the last, transfer spot. You want to be in that top 10. Absolutely you do, to be scoring good points and then put yourself in a good position for race number 2 as well. At the moment, Matt Marsh holds on to 10th. Here is Sheldon Hart and Ira Felberg, and Hart has gotten himself in front there, and then he runs deep through the hairpin, and that's going to compromise him out the final 2 corners here where you've really got to carry the speed. Felberg is going to be in that good spot to get the really strong slipstream looking out towards the ocean.
As he tucks in underneath the rear wing now, we'll see exactly what that slipstream is capable of. You can see him being pulled up to the back of the car, but Ira being Ira just might sit there for a little bit and just quite suss out the competition in front and play the long game. We are only at the halfway point of this short 10-lap sprint race, 15 minutes around here this should be. 2 different, very, very different lines through Southern Loop there, but Ira just comes out of it maybe gaining a little bit of an advantage, a little bit closer than when he went in.
Yeah, I thought the line looked good for Felberg, but not bad for Sheldon Hart to recover the car in the middle of the corner, point it to a late apex, and then be able to carry just enough speed off to hold on his position through Siberia again. Looking at some different lines, I think Ira's pretty happy to be in 14th and not do anything too risky. They have got Chastanoff a couple seconds. No, it's a lapped car immediately behind them. Chastanoff's more than 10 seconds back off them. This is the lead though. McKellar and Alex John with 3 laps to go. Teammates from Top Split TV flying in formation 1 and 2. Cam Dance in 3rd, towing along Sean Doyle. And on that lap, only a 10th of a second in the times between McKellar at the lead and Dance in 3rd. So I think it's going to require a mistake out of the top 2 or to pull something really special out of the bag for Cam Dance for him to close up that gap in the short amount of time remaining to get into the slipstream of John and try to ruffle some feathers up the front.
Yeah, a lot of this is going to come down to how aggressive Sean Doyle is going to jump onto the back of Cam Dance. So that difference between Dance and John at the moment is just over a second, 1.2 in fact. So if he can get it under a second, we'll probably start seeing a little bit of benefit of that draft. But as you say, 2.5 laps remaining, time's very, very quickly running out.
Nathan Verney there, spinning it on the exit of Siberia. And, wow, just so on the edge, these cars, that he just tried to pick up the throttle and it would not have it. It's taking him a while to get it pointed the right way again. He has now, and he is going on. Jeremy Bush, from 15th on the grid, is up into 10th place right now. That would give him the pole position for race number 2, the way that they run at the moment. So some important positions gained in race number 1 here could pay off well if he can keep that thing pointing the right way. Everyone looking so pointy, so loose at the rear of the car. Probably a similar story for David Baz. We saw last week that starting right up the front, if you get the benefit of that invert, you can hold on to that track position pretty well. So for Jeremy Bush, I think he'll be pretty happy there. Things closing up here at the lead. Is Alex John going to have a go at his teammate potentially? Oh, just no confidence to turn it in. Tyres in the grass on the outside there, and that is either going to create the bridge that Cam Dance needs, or it's going to create a bit of a rolling roadblock that lets McKellar skip away with this in the last lap and a half. What can Dance do? Can he get himself up in the second?
Yeah, that was exactly the carrot in front of the donkey that Cameron Dance needed. Just a little bit of a mistake there by the car 77 going into Honda, and all of a sudden that blue Formula 3 of Cam Dance is right underneath that rear wing. And probably couldn't ask for a better time going into the last lap. You know how smart Dance is as a racer. not taking anything away from Alex John, because he's had plenty of victories to his name as well. So this last lap really is going to be an epic battle for the second, third on the podium.
Really, really close. Second and third as they come out the final corner and about to start the final lap. Dance is looking around the outside for turn number 1. If he can do well around the outside of quick turn 1, that gives him the inside for the southern loop, but he's just not quite close enough as McKellar covers that off, sees that one coming, and is then going to roll it out and park it mid-corner, all the while giving a really good service to his teammate in the lead.
Yeah, best person on track at the moment to view and witness what's happening. Sean Doyle currently in 4th, so one little mistake or a little touch of tyres from these two here, and Doyle definitely find himself up on the 2nd spot of the podium. So all he's got to do is just hang in there.
Why would you say that?
Curse on that. Oh, sorry,
They're all
Donna.
around
Sorry,
behind
Donna.
him. Doyle around, Braden Martin around, just struggling on the final lap here, and this front wing off. He just can't get it facing the right way around. Heartbreak on the final lap here for Sean Doyle. Oh dear, these cars really proving so difficult, but second and third's not decided. Dance looking at the inside of Lukey Heights. Around the outside goes Alex John. He's had to be so tentative on the brakes lately in the last couple of laps, but he still holds it down the inside. Could we have a drag race here for second and third spots? For Alex McKellar, he should be clean home and away for his first win in Ozicar F3. Second and third, get the camera ready. Alex John weaving it about, and the answer is, I think he just holds on to that one. It got really close. I'm going to double check. Yeah, John just holding on. Half a tenth.
Well, that proved to be everything we thought it was going to be and more. We've got some big names that were potentially going to be up the front of the field that have had some dramas in race number 1. So we could see those guys drive from the back of the field through in race number 2, which we'll be back for very shortly. But also some great gains there as well. Of course, Nathan Verney, they're doing a really good job to finish 10th. So he will be our pole sitter for race number 2. As you said, the grid will be inverted. So Verney doing a really good job last week to secure a great result, and he's in for another one here tonight for race number 2.
Let's looky then. That was your finishing results, second and third. So a little bit of overlap for Cam Dance, but the line came up a bit too quick. And Alex John managed to hold on. And amongst their battle, Alex McKellar scampered away to a 2.5 second victory. Scott Harvey then ended up in 4th place. Sagasar up into 5th. Adam Marsh and Matt Marsh, 6th and 7th. Martin, I think, finished with no front wing in 8th there. Sean Doyle, less damage, but just couldn't keep the car facing straight on the final lap. Dropped him down to 9th. And Nathan Verney in 10th is going to be the beneficiary of the big invert, and he will start pole position for race number 2.
Yeah, I think both Doyle and Martin, they're part of almost an expression session on that last lap on the grass, trying to get back on the track. So Jeremy Bush out of 11 tonight. John Snell finishing 12th in race number 1, so a good result for him. Sheldon Hart finished race number 1 in 13. Ira Felberg 14. James Chastanoff, look out for him in race number 2 because he will be keen to amend that result. 15th tonight. David Baz got plenty of airtime but finished back in 16th tonight after a little bit of bad luck. Darren Lasue, good result for him because he started off the back row finishing 17th with Verdinell, McKenzie and Broadhurst rounding out your 20.
Yeah, and then Liam Banks, reading, had some maybe technical problems with his steering wheel that set him back a little bit, and Tom Hunt also 4 laps back. Very frantic opening race. This is Braden Martin with not only no front wing, the nose is a little bit bent. And of course, no time to pit on the final lap if you knock it off. You just got to go to the finish line. And he still managed a top 10 in that state. What could he do then in race number 2? I think there's a few drivers who've learnt something about the tyre preservation in race number 1. And with a good starting spot for race number 2, might be able to hold on to it. Here's another little look at Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Very flowing. 2 hairpins that are obviously one of your key overtaking opportunities, but other than that, a lot of really high-speed stuff that loads and potentially wears the tyres around here.
Yeah, it's an old circuit. Plenty of racing's happened here over the years, but it is also very aggressive on the tyres. So something the drivers will have to keep in mind. We did see a little bit of tyre wear last week at the Red Bull Ring. So we'll have to see how things pan out, whether any of those drivers take that information they gathered last week on board, and we'll see what race number 2 brings.
The answer to my trick question earlier was Ozicar Piastri.
Ozicar Piastri, of course, who tested with Alpine today and finished third in the test results.
We stan. So, good track here. It's obviously produced some very exciting racing in race number 1. And you saw, it just seemed like the rear tyres going off for everyone. We rode on board with Alex John late in that race, and he was really struggling on turning into the corners. You saw him almost shoot all the way past Honda because he just didn't have the confidence in the rear of the car to turn in. He knew if he turned the wheel, it was going to spin, so he just had to keep going straight on. And then a handful of drivers losing it on turn-in round about here into the MG hairpin. You drop down, you're braking, you're turning, and as the track drops away and banks in towards the apex, it's where they were losing some of it. I reckon a quick break here on Simspeed TV, because as you can see, race 2, a minute and a half away here on Simspeed TV for Ozicar F3. That we are really, really looking forward to.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Well, here we go. Welcome back to Ozicar Formula 3 Series, this short, sharp 3-round championship brought to you by Locked On iRacing Podcast and Prestige Trophy Badge and Engraving. This is how they're going to grid up for the longer race number 2. This is a result of the invert of the top 10 finishing order from race number 1. Sees Nathan Verney start on the pole position with Sean Doyle in second. Braden Martin in third has got himself a new front wing. Matt Marsh, Adam Marsh, and Braden Sagasar are the top 6. The other drivers that I guess won't have thought of themselves as having benefited from the top 10 invert but still start in the top 10. Scott Harvey, Cameron Dance, Alex John, and your race 1 winner, Alex McKellar, starting out of 10th place. Then you've got starting in the order that they finished race number 1, Jeremy Bush, John Snell, Sheldon Hart, Ira Felberg, James Chastanoff, David Baz, Darren Lesueur, Sebastian Vandal, Sean McKenzie, etc. They are getting ready to go. And I think some of the drivers to watch here, like Baz, Chastanoff, Vandal, qualified really well for race number 1, finished outside of that top 10 and deep on the grid. And we get racing. They are so squirrely, and immediately a big problem there. Alex John is on his roof. And was that Braden Martin there that he made contact with?
Nathan Verney there failing to get away under the green lights. We just see him make his way back onto the track now. So a little bit difficult to get these cars away with the clutches. They are a tricky little beast to master. So we're obviously catching a couple of drivers out there at the start. But all the action at the moment, up the front, lap number 1, it is Braden Martin and it might be Verney. I think on the side. Doyle, in fact, number 74. Big brake lock up in the background, big puff of smoke. We'll go back and see what happened there.
Dance got big on the brakes. That Sagasar wide on the AstroTurf, losing bulk positions early here as well. So real good challenge for the lead early on. Martin holds on from Doyle. Both of them something to prove in race number 2 here. Between what could be championship protagonists here, Alex McKellar and Cam Dance, cold tyres through haysheds towards Lukey Heights, and McKellar held him off pretty strongly at the end of last race. He's going to have to do it again. Here goes Martin around the outside of Scott Harvey, then down the inside for the hairpin. Drivers got to think about their tyres, and oh, there is Alex McKellar into the tyres.
Yeah, I don't think there's any coming back from that. Just he hits the escape button and he parks it for race number 2. That's instant death as soon as he hits those tyres there on the exit of Lukey Heights. We're going to jump on board VRS replay and get a better look at exactly how that all unfolded.
There's McKellar battling with Cam Dance. McKellar holding pretty sensible line through here. Cold tyres coming out. He does it all by himself. Car in front was a little slow that he might have been reacting to, but still, no contact. Lit up the rear, slid it sideways, and there was no saving it once he was on the grass. This is the race start. Not a great getaway at all for Vernie, and then he gets it sideways as well, lighting up the tyres, and then Alex John upside down, doing the Nico Hulkenberg Abu Dhabi impression, hanging like a cow.
It's an absolute disaster for our race 1 getter and second place getter, both of those teammates in Top Split TV, finding carnage on the opening lap of the race, so it does leave the door open for a couple of the drivers to step up into some future or further up positions. We'll make our way round through the hay shed now, change of direction here, going up the hill with left-hander before it's a sharp dive down Lukey Heights, one of the most famous corners within the Australian motor racing calendar, particularly famous amongst the MotoGP riders. But very well suited to the open rules of the Formula 3, which we are viewing here tonight. We jump on board with James Chastanoff, car number 42, tucked underneath that rear wing, looking for a way around, but he's also got Sabinar there, I think, in the background, making it 3 wide across the start-finish line to complete lap number 2 as they start number 3.
Sagasar could be the big winner here. He's leapfrogged 2 of them in towards turn 1 and then left them in his wake. He can take every line he wants from turn 1 and through Southern Loop. Eventually, Chastanoff does get in front of Scott Harvey. Some big winners and some big losers early on. We saw problems with Vernie and Alex John and Alex McKellar, but a big winner has been David Baz. He's come from, 16th up into 4th. Here he is. Showed a lot of pace in race number 1, but he's got a bit of a gap to bridge to your top 3 of Martin, Doyle and Cam Dance, flying in formation for the current podium positions. A long way to go in this race, a lot still to happen, and the track temperature is rising as well.
Yeah, that's all going to play into the tyre wear, which we spoke about a little bit earlier in the broadcast. So we could just mix things up a little bit as the race develops, so that'll be something to keep in the back of our mind. And some of those drivers are a little bit easier on the tyres early on, just might take benefit as the race comes to a little bit later on, as we count down towards lap number 20 when the checker flag will be dropped. But we have a look here with James Chastanoff as he comes round to complete yet another lap. Still in the draft of Sagasar there in front. He has Harvey behind him, waiting for an opportunity to stick his nose in potentially into turn number 1. Not going to happen this time.
Change up front, aggressive stuff from Sean Doyle as he gets in front. Braden Martin drops back into 3rd, but there's still precious little to separate them at the moment. As you can see, Cam Dance start to range in a little bit and then lift out of it early, brake early. Bit of smoke signals from Sean Doyle. I think you've got to be careful doing that because while he still made the corner, it's going to heat up those tyres and you've got to watch out for that sort of thermal runaway. Here's how he did it. Martin was in front. Doyle pulls out to take the spot, and I've got to imagine, Cam Dance wanted to go 3 wide down the inside and instead just follows Doyle through. Pretty common with how powerful that slipstream can be, that if you're in a pack of 3 here, you can go from 1st to 3rd or 3rd to 1st.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what Braden Martin did there, going down the main straight, went from 1st to 3rd. He decided to back out of it there a little bit. We are not even at the quarterway point of this race, so smarter to maintain a top 3 position without challenging and allowing that bloke in 4th, currently David Baz, we spoke about a little bit earlier, to jump onto the back and make it a 4-way battle. It looks like another challenge for the lead. Dance this time taking the control of the race here and taking the lead for the first time.
Indeed, Dance through into the lead, on board with Doyle in 2nd place as you see him coming down through the gears. Steady hands there as he gets up into 4th. Downhill here, fast speeds into a straight line braking zone. He's gonna think about it, but then he brakes a little earlier than Dance. Through all that, Martin's closed up on them as well, and it looks just visually like the gap is closing a tiny bit to David Baz. He gets squirrely trying to put the power down. You've got to be careful doing that. You've got to imagine that they try to push a little bit in the first lap or 2, and then for this middle 15-lap section, probably just try to manage those tyres. That's probably where victory is going to come from in race number 2.
Yeah, last time across the line, Baz 1.3 seconds behind Martin. So we'll see what it is in just a couple of corners' time as they come around and complete another lap. It's down under 1 second now, 0.8 actually, so a big gain there during this lap. Well over half a second for Baz, so it won't be very long before he is on the back of this group, and it does become a 4-way battle for the lead.
Matt Marsh, again, another driver, bit of problems with traction. He dropped back from 5th place back into 7th, and some ferocious battles all the way through the top 10 as you look. Dance trying to break the slipstream a little bit, trying to hold on to his spot. Let's take a look at a virtual racing school replay. This is Matt Marsh coming down towards MG. And again, another driver losing the rear as they turn in. Does the right thing, locks them all up, but that puts a lot of temperature in. Straightens the car up though. He's just got to nurse it a little bit and hope he can come back. Still a long way to go in this race, and there are other drivers. It's going to be their turn to struggle with the same things later on in this race too.
Yeah, Matt Marsh doing a really good job there to actually catch that car and keep it under control, because being an off-camber corner, the back of the car can step out, and once the drivers behind are pretty well committed to a racing line and a braking zone through that corner, it's very, very difficult to change direction. So everybody making it through, surviving, everybody's wings are straight and they're all facing the right direction, so brilliant job there from Matt Marsh, good car control.
The right thing to do when you find yourself in that sort of bother. Here is Sagasar and Chastanov. One of the drivers who's come from outside of the top 10 is Chasty, and he's up in his 6th, and he's looking good for 5th. Is that pretty well flat out through the final corner? I think it is for a car like this. Huge head of steam. He looks for the outside of turn 1, but with enough momentum, I think that's the place to be.
Yeah, job done, good pass down the straight. Even the battle behind is going too wide through turn number 1, but in the pink car there, is that car, Adam Marsh maybe? I think it is. No, Matt Marsh. Got my Marshes mixed up. But on the outside of Southern Loop's never a good place to hang it out wide and try and make the pass stick. So ducking back in, making it single file.
Yeah, good stuff. Good racecraft there from Matt Marsh as he finds himself just in the right spot at the right time to then make Adam Marsh and Scott Harvey battle. I'm ever so confused about what's on the side pod for Matt Marsh, but that's something for another day. On board with Kirk Broadhurst here for a replay, and he loses the rear across Lukey Heights before he even gets to MG, showing how difficult it is. Everyone seems to be on the knife edge like that. The difference between going quickly and looping it and facing the wrong way seems very, very fine for these cars.
Yeah, of course, a lot more horsepower than what a lot of these drivers in the Ozicar series are used to, when normally puttering around in the Skip Barbers. Low horsepower with some radial tyres. Makes for some amazing racing, but certainly not the most powerful engines on the service here in iRacing. But this series is just something different. We've jumped into the high horsepower, low downforce F3 open wheelers, and potentially catching a few of these drivers out with their right foot and just how they apply the power.
Where on earth did James Chastanov come from? He just appears in the middle of Southern Loop, avoiding action for Scott Harvey and Matt Marsh, and Adam Marsh comes around him as well. Got to imagine that would have all started in turn number 1. Several places around here where if you go off wide from one corner, it sees you potentially skating back across the track in the next. That's been the cause of many an accident at Southern Loop and at MG. Now, remember, he was battling with Sagasar for 5th. That's what it is. Sagasar looks to the inside, in towards turn 1. Around the outside, there's just a little bit of contact. And that is where, skating across the beautiful grass, over a little hill, careful on the rejoin. I think he did about as best he could, given the circumstances there.
Yeah, keeping it very tight to the inside. Traditionally, the cars do sort of tend, it's almost a two-corner apex method as you make your way through that corner, so that kind of worked in Chastity's favour, gave him a little bit of room there to make his way back on the circuit, and he jumps on the back of this four-way battle, just sitting inside the top 10, so it's certainly not over for him just yet.
Yeah, he's watching some pretty robust moves in front of him. Adam Marsh to the top of the pack, Matt Marsh right there, and Chastity's looking down the inside of Scott Harvey. I don't think that's quite where you want to be. You'll find yourself at the outside for the hairpin at Honda.
2x2 into the heavy braking zone here. Marsh versus Marsh and Chastanoff versus Harvey. Looks like Chastanoff has him got the run at the back of the grid now there to hold the inside for Siberia. So just feeding Harvey a little bit wide and getting the job done there, making the move. So he now has a Marsh versus Marsh battle in front of him, and that'll be these next two targets.
If you hear some gears grinding against each other, it's my brain trying to work out what to say about two Marshes. But now it's Chastanoff's time to try to chip away at this. So he now passed Harvey and try to line up the two Marshes, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. Starting lap 10 now, so not even at the halfway point of this second race here. Seeing leapfrog, it's going to put Adam Marsh in front of Matt Marsh for turn 1. Boy, they got a bit close, a bit too close for comfort there. Adam Marsh wide on the exit. Matt Marsh trying to tuck back underneath, and this is going to be a big overspeed for Chastanoff. He can pick whatever lane he wants for a big slipstream, but is there going to be room to slot the gap to get past? Sees him around the outside of Adam Marsh. He breaks quite deep into Honda here. So does Matt Marsh, who locks up. And I think that's Chastity going to be in front for Siberia here. So one by one, he's chipping away at them. All the while, Varndell, I think, is catching this group as well. So the action's in the middle of the pack here for Ozicar F3 right now.
Yeah, almost a complete replica of what he did the lap before there by Chastity on the outside of Honda. The battle isn't over. Marsh is still right on his tail there, looking to get that position back. But like you said, as they battle, it is just bringing Varndell closer and closer to this little group in front of him, which is exactly what he wants to see. We jump on board with Scott Harvey now. He is at the back of this group, and he will be looking to get a maximum draft from Marsh in front of him and make it a four-way tow down the main straight.
Starting the halfway point of this race, Cam Dance leads by 2.3 seconds ahead of Doyle, and Martin's caught him for the podium positions, but it's all action in that mid-pack there with James Chastanoff and the Marshes and Harvey. You can see your top 5 still relatively close, all within about 6 seconds after 10 laps of racing here. David Baz and Braden Sagasar with 4th and 5th there, and then 6th is where we've had our focus of late. Chastanoff not close enough for any attack or any dive through this part of the lap here. Again, you know, we've still got a long way to go. You do got to bide your time a little bit with the tyres, surely. Track temperature's still heating up. Remember, we had 25 Celsius for race number 1. This race started at about 27, creeping up to 30 now. That's not going to be helping the grip levels.
Now, a few of these drivers will really be feeling these tyres start to slip out from underneath them. And like we said earlier, those drivers are a little bit easier on their tyres in the opening lap. They didn't perhaps have to fight their way for position through the midfield. Might just get the benefit here, so we might see this group break up a little bit.
Troubles on traction for Matt Marsh there through the penultimate corner, sees Chastanov a lot closer than he was a lap before, and he's right in the prime slipstream zone. So Matt Marsh runs it down the middle of the road, and as Chastanov approaches, looks to the outside, Chasty's going to swing down the inside and up into 6th. Clean move, but there's absolutely room for the fight back. Scott Harvey off the road behind him.
Yeah, I think just quietly, at the moment, Adam Marsh has to mellow. Just here as he tries to stick the nose down the inside for Honda. So mellow, he is not going to do. He's going to fight this every inch of the way.
I know what you're setting up there.
I'm clutching at straws.
It crossed my mind, and I thought, no, that's just like too much low-hanging fruit.
Well, we joke amongst ourselves that Chastanov retains the position at the moment. Out on track, he is in position number 6, so just on the outside of the top 5 at the moment, but definitely a great result for him because he started out in 15th on the grid, so he'll be quite happy with this result at the moment, but he definitely has his hands full. Mirrors are full of a couple of F3 cars there in the background, and we see one spin in the background and facing the wrong way at Lukey Heights. I'm not exactly sure who that was, but it wasn't too terminal. He managed to keep it off the wall, whoever it was.
Harvey's been in the walls a little bit. He was off track at Southern Loop. Now he's battling here with Varndell. Good idea with the lap time, and normally that should be a 1:22, but with the time off the road, 1:30 this lap for Harvey. As he shoots back down the inside. 4th and 5th have been battling as well. Top 3 have spread out, so Sagasar and Baz have been going back and forth. We've got a replay of what happened amongst them. And again, your prime overtaking opportunity is towards turn 1 with that strong slipstream. Nothing funny from Baz as he followed the normal racing line, and Sagasar had the overspeed down the inside of turn number 1. And then just in position to carry speed through Southern Loop.
Yeah, getting the job done there quite nicely and pulled a little bit of a gap, probably 2 or 3 car lengths there on Baz in the remainder of this lap. So he'll still need to watch his mirrors because Baz will be in draft as they make their way around onto the straight to complete another lap. So it may not be close enough to have a dive, but he'll definitely be having his nose underneath that rear wing of the car in front as they go into the braking zone. Cam Downs at the moment out in front. He leads this race on lap number 13 with 7 to go. Doyle 1.6 seconds behind. A great result for Doyle so far tonight. Sitting comfortably in 2nd with Braden Martin sitting in 3rd. So no battle for the lead at the moment. Everyone's quite spaced out, about 1.5 seconds amongst them. The rest of the battles are happening further back in the field as we see Varndell and Harvey still going at it in the final battle for the top 10 position here at the moment. Swap of race lines as they make their way through Southern Loop. Side by side. And they're going to have to be real careful as they make their way through Stoner Corner into Honda hairpin. We'll just hold our breath and see how things pan out.
Hold your breath too long. Oh no! Varndell around, looping it on traction there. Find reverse gear to any kind of traction. He's on a grassy slope there with no grip at all, still struggling just to keep the car going the right way. Bit of a sad story. Alex McKellar in 18th is the fastest car on the track at the moment. After that big delay from in the tyres lap 1, he's been stuck down here fighting over nothing, but he has had mega speed and no one to battle.
Yeah, he's been doing those lap times obviously with no draft because you can't see anybody in front or behind him that's going to give him any real benefit. 1 minute and 14 seconds off the lead, and these drivers are doing a 1 minute 20 lap times. The qualifying lap time tonight for the race run was a 1:22.3, so it just shows how far back off the group the potential lead lap is before McKellar finds himself under pressure and some blue flags.
But he won't because he's the fastest car on the track at the moment.
Absolutely.
For 3-4 laps in a row, so he'll just sort of stay 5 or 6 seconds away from going the lap down. to this man. Cam Dance leads the way, 1.7 seconds clear. I think Sean Doyle wishes he was half a second closer because he's just out of that slipstream, and what you've seen is Cam Dance moving it around to the middle of the road, down the pit straight, some other things just to make sure he can keep that little barrier he's got, that little gap in his pocket. And then Martin an equal 1.8 seconds behind Doyle, so just spaced close enough that they can always see each other, but far enough that no one's really getting a slipstream to close it up.
Looks like Van Dell may be making a little bit of ground on Braden Martin there in the background for third and fourth. The gap at the moment is just over 1.5 seconds, so we'll keep an eye on that. We have 5 laps to go. I don't think Braden Martin's done anything to potentially put his tyres at risk, so he just may hang on to third here, but I've already put the commentator's curse on Sean Doyle tonight. The last person I want to do is put it back on to Braden Martin.
First, and second, and third, and fourth, and fifth as you look at them run through here. The closest amongst them, Sagasar and Baz. The only machine of Baz is close enough to be benefiting from a slipstream. This lap, Sagasar just 0.3 out of Braden Martin's advantage. And it's going to be 4 laps to go when they cross the start-finish line. So starting to get into that closing point of the race here, hoping that they've saved enough tyre, but you saw some pretty gnarly corrections there. This will be Scott Harvey and Kirk Broadhurst in 10th and 11th. I think Harvey's one of those drivers who started to struggle on the tyres, really raced up front in the top 5, and just maybe hasn't had the same grip and confidence in the last 5. It's a replay of Scott Harvey, and yeah, this is what I mean, just not quite the same grip or confidence. He runs wide in the hairpin, and that's how he's ended up where he is, battling over 10th.
Make the way down at the main straight to complete another lap. We have 4 to go, so really have to start thinking about where you're going to position yourself on those final couple of laps, because draft is going to be critical here for some of these drivers that are battling side by side. A little bit wide there through Southern Loop, but manages to pull it back in, rolling off the throttle and getting back in the slipstream of the car in front. But like I said, it's 3.5 laps to go now for the leaders up the front of the race, so no challenges amongst those guys here. At the middle of the race is where all the drivers are really battling for the crumbs at the moment.
Dance leading the way. Doyle now 2.5 seconds back, so good advantage this lap for Dance.
Looks like Dan's trying to cool his tyres, so dropping them in the dirt on the outside of the straight there. Just a bit of a tactic we don't tend to see too often. I think Gizzy did it at Bathurst quite a few years ago, but not something you tend to see in the open wheelers and Formula 3s.
And it is those right-hand side tyres that are going to have the heat build up through Southern Loop, through Lukey Heights, through the final 2 corners of the lap. Sagasar looking like he's picked up a bit of speed, still chipping away there from 4th place. Martin could be just biding his speed, biding his time, trying to hold on to his tyres so that he doesn't run out a grip on the final lap.
Battle for 16th and 17th at the moment, Vernie and Hunt, and they are battling as hard as anyone else on the track at the moment. 3-way battle here as they dip their nose into turn number 1.
Vernie with the most confidence of anyone shoots ahead of John Snell. Both of them got past Tom Hunt, trying to clean off his tyres, cool him down a little bit, and resume battle with John Snell. We're focused on right now.
Yeah, almost looks like Vernie's checked out there. You can't even see him on screen at the moment, so he's got a good little gap there of probably 4 or 5 car lengths going into the braking zone at Honda hairpin. So he has ducked off and let these two here to battle it out. Bit of a unique paint job there. Looking really good on screen. So something quite unique and stands out on the broadcast. So really good to see.
These open wheelers don't ride quite as much curb as a supercar or a GT might. It can be more fun for them. These cars pretty solidly planted, absolutely flat out through there, want to keep off the curbs. They don't need to open up the track quite so much. They do look like they'd be pretty sensitive to any of those raised curbs. There's some flat ones that they can get on, like the exit here of the final corner, but again, don't need to. They're well and truly planted. Moving across, John Snell offers up the inside line to Tom Hunt, and has his nose in front, has the inside line. Just throw it into turn one with some of that confidence, and he'll get the spot.
So while that's happening through Southern Loop, we have
off lap for Dance last time around. It's down to 1.7 now to Doyle.
So our leader there, just losing a little bit of pace in the dying laps. We see Barney feverishly waving that white flag as the drivers cross the line to start the last lap.
Martin's also going to come under pressure from Sagasar as well, so things could still be interesting for our top five in the final lap here.
Yeah, Dance at the moment sitting out quite comfortable, but really the battle is on for the final podium position. Braden Martin doing very little wrong from the moment the light went green, so he has just got to hold on for another half a lap, but Sagasar looking very, very hungry to find himself back on the podium. Obviously he wants to come in the commentary box and have another chat this week. You can see Baz in the background in the yellow car, another one that stands out on track, and he has really dropped off. So it just goes to show the gains that Sagasar has made. Marsh and Marsh battle still going on. This is going to go right down to the checkered flag as well. So this has been going on for a good 10 laps between these two drivers.
Harvey and Kirk Broadhurst got into each other on the last lap there as well. So never a dull lap in Ozicar F3. Cam Dance will be hoping for a dull one here as he's got 2 corners left to bring it home for his 3rd win in Ozicar F3 this season. And with troubles and tribulations for Alex McCallum, he looks like he's going to be head and shoulders clear in the championship here. Cam Dance from 8th on the grid to take the win. Doyle in 2nd, a very measured drive for race number 2. Well done from him, and Martin does complete that podium because Sagasar couldn't quite get him. Here's your Marshes that need to mellow.
I'd say Marsh got that one over Marsh.
It was pretty close, but I think it was well driven by Marsh in the end. Marsh had a good run, but couldn't quite get around him. So it is Matt Marsh from Adam Marsh, 7th and 8th. Jeremy Bush, Sebastian Varndale completing it there. Harvey and Broadhurst, who got into each other on the final lap there, are going to drag race it out for 11th and 12th. And what a lap that those two have had. Entirely inseparable. Broadhurst could... he's not in the slipstream here.
No,
So I think he might be letting Harvey hold on to that 11th.
Yeah, opting to stay on the right-hand side of the track rather than follow him through using that slipstream to his advantage. But our race winner tonight, as we see him on screen, actually there's your 1, 2, 3, 4 drivers as they cross the finish line tonight. It's Cam Dance, Sean Doyle, Braden Martin, and of course Braden Sagasar.
Even having a cheeky dip, cooling the tyres on the in-lap for Cam Dance there. So, checkered flag here. Matt Marsh from Adam Marsh.
I wouldn't say there was much in it at the end of the race.
I'd say that Matt stole the Marsh on the final lap.
We see the drivers duck into pit lane. That is going to wrap up race number 2, round number 2 here tonight at Phillip Island. Barney waving the flag. He just loves to wave it. There's no one coming down the straight, but he is still out there doing what he loves to do. As we look at our top 10 results tonight from our race number 2 here on Simspeed TV, Cam Dance taking the win by a good 2.5 seconds over Sean Doyle, and Braden Martin holding on for 3rd place to round out the podium tonight. Braden Sagasar doing a brilliant job to come within 0.6 of a second, coming a long way. I think he was back in 15th when that race started, so a good job from him. And David Baz and James Chastanoff, another good one, making his way through into the top 10. And then, of course, it was Marsh versus Marsh, followed by Bush and Varndale, which are top 10 tonight.
And the last drivers finishing on the lead lap: Scott Harvey, Kirk Broadhurst, Ira Felberg, Darren Lesieux, Nathan Verney, and John Snell. Okay, I'm going to need some of Donna
here.
Doyle's heart medication now. Tom Hunt, 1 lap down. And then Sean McKenzie, 4 down. Liam Banks, 12 laps down. And Alex John taken out lap 1 there, upside down on the pit straight. Sheldon Hart not taking the start. I think that was a pretty good race. 2 good races around Phillip Island. We saw plenty of wheel-to-wheel in the slipstreaming, but they did have to just manage those tyres a little bit. See ya.
Yeah, definitely something we learnt last week, and next week we will be back to here again on Simspeed TV at yet another iconic track here in Australia, and the tyre management is going to be just as critical, if not more so, than it was tonight. So a lot of undulation at the track we're going to, with a lot of high-speed corners and heavy braking zones.
Bathurst next week to close it out. But let's speak to our winner, Cam Dance. Some good donuts and burnouts to celebrate what looks like you extending your championship lead here in round 2, even if race 1 didn't quite go your way. Cam Dance, hello.
Maybe he's not talking to you tonight, Dave. We are looking at him.
Maybe
on
he's a
the
bit
screen.
sheepish.
Here he is. We've got him hooked up now with the microphone. Cam, I'll throw you over to Dave.
Yes, no, Cameron Dance,
Maybe.
come in.
I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
There we are. Well, win in that feature race, but race 1 a little more difficult for you.
Yeah, not really the most ideal start, to be honest. Obviously got a little bit swamped and then fell off the road at one point through turn 1 trying to go around the outside on slightly cold tyres. But no, it was definitely a good one in race 2, and obviously race 1 having the contact with David sort of bent my left front suspension as well. So wasn't the best race, and obviously coming home 3rd was probably better for the championship than trying to win and ended up beating it. So yeah, can't complain too much with the overall night, but yeah, definitely take the second race one.
Track looked really abrasive on the tyres, even in the shorter race number 1. A lot of people, yourself included, struggling to keep the nose in front of the tail.
Yeah, and some of the corners, it was a little bit of a challenge, especially on the cold tyres. Some of the corners, you had to be a little bit ginger on the throttle on the exit, especially the likes of MG and that, where the rear end could come around you on you reasonably easy. But yeah, once the tyres were up to temp, it wasn't too bad, and then it was just a matter of making sure you kept that right front in check and looked after it, since it was so easy to lock the inside front up on the way into Honda and MG as well. So you just had to be very, very careful about that.
Well, that's 66% of the championship done. You find yourself ahead. How's that going to affect how you approach the final round? Is it going to be still trying to clean sweep, or is that championship going to be on your mind?
Bit of both, obviously. We want to try and win as many races as we possibly can, because who doesn't like a bit of winning? But yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously, championship probably more in mind than anything else, so we won't try and do anything silly. But yeah, still going to try and go for the race win if we can.
Well, congratulations to you, in 8th place and a win. Sorry, 3rd place and a win. I got confused by that inverted grid, didn't I?
Yeah, it was quite interesting, that inverted grid, especially with the fact that you had I think it was Nathan not quite pulling again and staying on the start line, and I think I saw Alex end up in the fence as a result. So yeah, that was a little bit unfortunate. But no, we'll head to Bathurst and see what it ends up.
Well, once again, congratulations to you. It almost feels like our own little S5000 Tasman series here.
Yeah, it certainly does, especially with the Kiwis keeping winning.
Off there, let's kick Cam Dance out, but offer our congratulations to him once again. Another strong drive, just managing it in that longer race as well. From 2nd place, Sean Doyle. Bit of redemption for him. He's with Jason Fewens.
Welcome, Sean, to the commentary box after an exciting race there, race number 2 tonight. Very, very happy with your result, no doubt. Plenty of action happening behind you throughout the race, but you found yourself in a prime position there after race number 1, where you scored yourself an inverted pole.
Yeah, no, it was a great race. Bit boring, but it's my own fault. That a little bit too much gas on that first race, and it just spun. I thought I had 4th in the bag, and yeah, too cocky.
Well,
no, race 2 was good.
I'll have to put my hand up and lay claim to that. The commentator's curse. So you'll watch it back and you'll want to slap me sideways because I was just commenting on what a brilliant job you were doing, and then all of a sudden round she went. So,
mate, it's the first time I've really driven these cars. You know, the race last week, 22nd to 15 spots up. I'm enjoying them.
Well, it definitely worked in your favour because you did start race number 2 tonight off the pole, and I don't know whether you actually saw what happened in your mirrors because Nathan Verney was on your right-hand side, and as the lights went green, he quickly went nowhere. And there's a little bit of carnage, and we saw some of the cars make contact there as you simply just drove away to get a good commanding lead at the start of race number 2. And then all of a sudden you had Braden Martin and Cam Dance on your tail, and then what soon became a little battle for 3. But between the 3 of you, from our perspective, turned out to be a really good race.
Yeah, no, once I seen Cam come through, I know that he's a bit quicker, so, you know, just let him go. I tried to stick with him, but it was a nice race. We both, you know, all 3 of us had a good position, good race, so happy with the result.
Absolutely, second on the podium here tonight in race number 2. And, of course, after quite a good result last week, we are going into the final round next week at Bathurst. Have you got a game plan, or are you just going to sort of play it by ear and see how things pan out?
Mate, I'll just do a bit of practice this week. I've really enjoyed these cars. Like I said, it's the first really time I've actually had a good crack at them, and I'm enjoying them.
Is there many of the traits from the Skippies which you've been quite dominant at? Have you carried them across, or is it a completely new beast to learn?
I'm carrying the same sort of, you know, strategy across, but, you know, different gear ratios and all that sort of stuff. But, yeah, no, I'm thoroughly enjoying it and still loving me Skippies. Can't wait for the next season, but I'm enjoying it all.
Well, brilliant result tonight. Throw over to any of your sponsors or anyone you want to thank tonight.
You know, I got to thank me mum, boys. You always got to thank me mum, number 1 supporter, and White Knuckle Racing and LS Speed Shop, boys, and yeah, Barrett and Scotty, mate. Great support. Cheers, everyone, and you guys. Great effort. Love it.
Brilliant job yourself, mate. Great result tonight on the podium, and we look to see you up the front towards the pointy end next week, and hopefully back in the commentary box celebrating the spoils of victory and spraying some champagne.
I hope to be there, boys. I hope to be there.
Okay, second place getter tonight, Sean Doyle, joining us here in the commentary box after a very calculated and rewarding race there tonight, finishing second on the podium and taking a good haul of points into what will be the third and final round next week. And over to Dave now for our third and final place getter on the podium, one Mr. Braden Martin.
Yeah, he's been hanging around, dying to speak to us, and, well, finishing race number 1 with no wing on the nose, but then race number 2 just, I think, measuring out the 20 laps perfectly.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing to end race 1 the way I did, and then getting in a couple of people's way. My steering was literally, my Formula V2 rim was literally vertical. So it was pretty hard to drive, but yeah, just self-spun watching Sean self-spin, which was a bit disappointing, but race 2 much better.
Yeah, indeed. Early going, staying in that slipstream, staying with the lead pack. What caused it to break? Because obviously, well, everywhere we've been, a really strong slipstream for these cars.
Yeah, lack of talent, basically. I knew I had to probably try and get out ahead pretty early. That's why I was quite aggressive into turn 2 on the first lap, just sort of in the hope that I would get away while maybe some people behind would battle, because I knew I didn't have the raw pace of some of the other guys, and I felt like I would get swallowed up pretty quickly. So yeah, once Cam and Sean got into my draft and slingshotted past me, I just didn't have the pace to stay with them. I thought I could catch Sean a little bit. It seemed like his tyres went off for a few laps in the middle of the race, but I just couldn't capitalise enough to get back up with him. And then it was all about just trying to make sure that I didn't get caught by what I was affectionately calling the imposter Braden from behind. So yeah, it was an interesting race.
Yeah, and thinking about how tough everyone found it with the tyres, keeping the car pointing the right way here, those walls get mighty close at Bathurst for next round.
Yeah, I haven't done a lap around Bathurst in one of these, and this is really pretty much my only first sort of races in the F3 car, so it'll be interesting. Lots of downforce, which will be fun, but it will be very easy to catch one of those walls, as you say. I didn't find the tyre drop-off too bad tonight. I think my lap times were pretty consistent most of the way through that longer race. It was more just not having the pace in the first place, so maybe if I had a bit more pace, they might drop off a bit quicker.
Well, that's one thing to keep in mind for these longer races. They're just sort of running them all the way through, no pit stops. A bit of a change from our typical Aussie car format of some kind of compulsory pit stop. It's some longer stints.
Yeah, it was, I guess, a good little practice with the Tin Cup the other night, doing the sort of 50 minutes straight. It was a bit weird not having to jump into the pits, but I'm glad I didn't have to chuck front tyres on or something, because I can imagine these cars would be pretty dangerous with cold fronts.
Actually, I saw you trying to make a pit entry in one of the warm-up sessions, so probably for the best that you didn't have to take it during the race.
Yeah, I was going a little bit sideways, having a little bit of fun over the bumps.
Well, congratulations on the podium here in the feature race, and could have been a good result in race number 1, but you still hung on for a top 10 there.
Yeah, thanks. Just shout out to you guys for putting on the awesome broadcast as always. Shout out to the Locked On lads over in the Discord. Make sure you check out the Locked On iRacing podcast to have a listen about all things iRacing.
I've still got a grumble about that one, but I won't air it.
You got to talk to Wilco.
Well, I think that's about that from Phillip Island. Thank you to all of our podium placers who came in to have a chat with us. We head to the mountain next week for what is again going to be some long straights, some high speeds, but the drivers are going to have to be oh so careful across the tricky top of the mountain as we bring home Ozicar F3 Championship. All that one on Christmas Eve, as I'm going to take to calling it 1 week's time here on Simspeed TV. David Haynes, Jason Fewens with me, Jay Kennedy with the cameras and behind the scenes. And of course, big thanks have got to go to series supporters, Locked On iRacing podcast and Prestige Trophy Badge and Engraving. You think I'd be better than that. And yeah, we'll see you in a week's time at the mountain.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in indoor series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to him.
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my god.
God, what?